Let's get you an update on Cyclone Biparjoy that made landfall on Thursday. It's laid center over Saurashtra-Kutch. It's about 40 kilometers from the Jagaon port and about 30 kilometers from Nalia. It's now going to weaken even further. It has weakened. It's going to become a depression by this evening. And from there onwards, from Saurashtra-Kutch, it is now moving towards Rajasthan. So it's packing in a very strong winds. Those winds of 75 to 85 kmph gusting to 95 kmph are prevailing along and off the coastline, whether it's Porbandar, Devbhoomi, Dwarka, Jamnagar, Rajkot, Junagadh, Morbi, including the Gulf of Kutch, where it's extremely windy even now. A warning stands for those areas, along with parts of Saurashtra-Kutch, where it's going to be raining heavily today as well. Now, rainfall could get heavy in Banas Kantha as well as Patan. The areas of Morbi, Mehsana, Sabarkantha. This is the northern part of Gujarat, where a rain red alert warning has been sounded off for the entire state of Gujarat today and the western part of Rajasthan. At least 22 people have been injured, while electric poles and trees were uprooted as the very severe cyclone made landfall in Gujarat's coastal areas on Thursday evening. In addition to this, 23 animals have also been killed as heavy rain coupled with gusty winds brought down 524 trees and electric poles at various places in Gujarat, snapping the power supply to over 900 villages. 940 villages have been out of electricity and in complete darkness since late last night. Now, after churning across the Arabian Sea for more than 10 days, Cyclone Biparjoy made landfall near the Jagaon port, and with winds that were ranging between 125 gusting to about 140, but started losing force several hours after. At about 2:30 at night, it was packing in 100 kilometers of winds. Well, we have Amit Arora, the DM of Kutch, joining us on the phone line to get us more about the situation on the ground. If I could just ask you about the arrangements and safety measures that have been put in place in order to ensure zero casualty approach in terms of humans, in terms of animals and wildlife. Take us through what were the arrangements and the safeguard measures that were already put in place in order to ensure that zero casualty approach.
I think government had very clear instructions that zero casualty approach has to be taken, and we had done a lot of evacuation. We evacuated close to 53,000 people from the areas that are supposed to be hard hit. We had teams stationed in place, NDRF, SDRF, etc. See, the coastal talukas, the main livelihood is dairy. So we shifted around 23,000 animals to high ground. We tied up with a lot of Gau Seva Sanstans and Gaushalas for their fodder, etc. We also deputed dairy teams, because one major fear in cyclonic rainfall is the small animals, less than a year of age of, calves, etc., fall very sick, and hypothermia can cause death. So we roped in the Sarhad dairy. We got their medical team stationed in the Gaushalas, and where we had shifted these animals.
Right. 23 animals have lost their lives in the cyclone so far.
Hello?
Yes. So 23 animals have lost their lives as far as the cyclone is concerned. So, that zero casualty approach, especially given the Prime Minister was very, very, concerned about the lions in the Gir forest.
See, I can only brief you about Kutch. And Kutch, as of now, the figure for animal casualty is 5. But see, again, our approach is zero casualty towards animal. We have been trying our best, and the idea is to minimize, the loss of life. As far as human death is concerned, there has not been any reported human death as of now. As far as situation here is concerned, there are pretty strong winds again. We have about 70 to 80 kilometers per hour of winds in the coastal talukas. In fact, in even the main, the main central talukas of Bhuj and Nakhatrana, we have about 60-65 kilometers per hour of wind going. So right now we are, just assessing the damage. So exact figures of whatever damage has been done would be available once the weather calms down today. So I think the exact picture will emerge.
Sir, if you could take us through, the uprootment of trees and the electric poles. Many villages have been without electricity since yesterday. So what about the restoration process? How long would that take?
See, since if I tell you about yesterday evening we had about 200 to 250 poles had been damaged, and more than 250 trees had been uprooted. But seeing the the activity, the cyclonic activity last night, these numbers will rise drastically. 4 talukas where winds were blowing very heavily. We voluntarily shut down the substations because if a live wire snaps, it can cause death. So right now, about 5 to 6 talukas, electricity is an issue. But out of those 6 talukas, 5 have been voluntarily shut down to avoid damage. Once the winds cease, we'll just check the lines and restore power. Especially in the Mandvi Mundra taluka, the tree damage is likely supposed to be much bigger. All talukas are well connected except Lakpat taluka, where there are issues with mobile communications, but we are in touch on satellite phone with the authorities there.
Right. So also a commendable job when it comes to the pregnant women in the vulnerable areas, many of whom delivered babies in the last 2 days.
Yes, I think that was one of step. I think that was done at the right time, because there were 512 pregnant ladies who had their delivery dates before 20th of June. So we shifted them to sub-district hospitals. We prepared 3 sub-district hospitals in the nearby areas, Lakpat, Nakhatrana and Abdasa. And 274 have already delivered babies. So, and the rest are in the hospital. So right. I think, the idea was if you want to shift a large number, you have to ensure that they are comfortable. So,
Right. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us with all those details this morning. It's the morning after the cyclone, the aftermath of the cyclone, which continues to make its presence felt in areas of Saurashtra-Kutch and the remaining parts of Gujarat. It will now be moving towards Rajasthan. To get more on this, we have Dr. K.J. Ramesh, former Director General of Meteorology, the Indian Met Department. Also, we have with us Professor Anil Gupta, the HOD of Policy Planning at the National Institute of Disaster Management. Sir, if I could take my first question to Professor Anil Gupta. When we talk about, the lessons learned from previous disasters that might have helped deal with this particular destructive cyclone.
Yeah, this is true that each major disaster leaves us with some lesson. How effectively we use those lessons in improving for the future is very important. And that has been very much visible in dealing with preparing for this cyclone Biparjoy. Taute was almost 2 years back. We faced Taute in almost the similar area. The Gujarat was the center, and that left us with some lessons. But beside that, the earlier cyclones also, for example, we compare our cyclone preparedness with the super cyclone of 1999. But after that, there were several super cyclones faced by East Coast and West Coast. Now, this is also a reality that past few years we have started getting more severe cyclones on the West Coast as well. Earlier, we were getting mostly on the East Coast. But the lessons that the cyclones that were dealt in Orissa very effectively, for example, Cyclone Phylline, and then the lessons in Fani. For example, the pregnant women, they were taken to the hospital well in advance. So each disaster then leaves us with some kind of idea of innovations, and also where we need to improvement. For example, this cyclone, the best thing was the effective coordination between, I would say, the agencies at horizontally and vertically. So vertically like central government, state government, and the local institutions, including community participation and engagement was very, very effective, and the local volunteers, local NGOs, but horizontal also, like the other state, for example, Rajasthan is the second hit state. Now it is going to be to face a lot of rainfall and maybe partly flooding as well. So how various states, various departments and various governments at various levels coordinated. So that has made this, we can claim that we could really vouch the zero casualty, even if There are some damages. Certainly, damages are there to infrastructure. Now, that is the next lesson, that how do we make our infrastructure and natural systems resilient.
Right. We also have Dr. K.J. Ramesh joining us. Sir, in comparison to other storms that we have seen in the Arabian Sea, how would you rate this cyclone that stayed at sea for nearly 10 days and took longer than usual, almost 6 hours to make landfall?
Yeah, this is a extremely severe cyclone, having stayed almost 10 days over the sea, 9 days over the sea, and made landfall yesterday. And still, the peculiar part is, even after the landfall, 12 hours process of landfall process, still the cyclone is located over the Rann of Kutch, very close to a place called Bhitara Mota, and it is moving extremely slowly, and strength has not significantly weakened so far. So system is maintaining its strength both in terms of wind speed and as well as the rain continuing behind the cyclone. Lot of rain will follow also. That has been happening all through the night.
Talk about the kind of rainfall, if you could put it in perspective in terms of how many centimeters of rainfall it's rain, in which particular areas has it been the worst? And, going forward, when there's a red alert warning that's been issued, that red alert warning that continues for the state of Gujarat and is now being sounded off for Rajasthan as well. So what kind of rainfall can we expect for those areas?
See, rainfall over all through coastal segment of Kutch, up to Bhuj and Port City, and southern side of the Gulf of Kutch is the Jamnagar, is the area up to which Porbandar and Okha area will have been receiving, at least last since yesterday afternoon, and now at least 20 to 30 centimeters rainfall must have been received in all these areas. And another 6 hours, the same rainfall intensity is likely to continue, and wind speed of 70-80 kilometers is likely to continue before it enters the province. We were expecting that by early morning cyclone will touch Sindh province, so that has not happened so far. So another 6 hours, the brunt of the Biparjoy may continue over Kutch region.
Right, it still continues to remain a severe cyclone. It's about 70 kilometers from Jagav port where it made landfall and about 50 kilometers from Nalia. It is centered at the moment. It is going to move towards the western part of Rajasthan, and that's where a red alert warning has been sounded off. A word of caution to people there not to venture out. With this, we're slipping into a very short break. Lots more coming up on the other side.